15. Legendary British beers. Only true Brits remember. If you close your eyes and imagine a British pub in 1970, you can almost smell it. The faint aroma of stale tobacco, heavy wool carpets, and a very specific scent of beer that is almost impossible to find today. This was an era before the takeover of flavorless global lagers, before the craft beer revolution, and long before pubs became polished family restaurants. In those days, beer was regional, idiosyncratic, and often a bit strange. These brands once dominated the skyline. Their logos adorned thousands of facades, and workers counted down the minutes until the end of their shift to sink a pint of a specific local brew. Today, we remember 15 legendary beers that have either vanished or changed beyond recognition, brews that only a true Brit will remember. 1. Watney's Red Barrel. We begin with the ultimate giant, a brand that once owned the northern cities but became a symbol of everything wrong with 1960s brewing. If you ask a real ale enthusiast about Watney's Red Barrel, expect a grimace. It was one of the first keg beers, pasteurized, chilled, and artificially carbonated. It was everywhere, predictable, and, according to many, completely tasteless. Yet its influence was massive. It was the sheer hatred of Red Barrel that fueled the birth of the campaign for Real Ale, CAMRA. Today, a Red Barrel is a cultural artifact, a reminder of the moment marketing first tried to defeat flavor. 2. Double Diamond. A double diamond works wonders. This was a slogan every Briton knew by heart. Produced by Inn Coop in Burton-on-Trent, this pale ale was the powerhouse of the 50s and 60s. It was positioned as the drink for the hard-working man, the fuel for the miners and factory workers. It was a national institution, but as the 90s approached and tastes shifted toward lighter European lagers, the wonder-working diamond lost its sparkle and disappeared from the bar. San, Whitbread Trophy. Whitbread was one of the big six breweries that controlled the UK market, and Trophy was their flagship bitter. It was marketed as the pint for real men. With a distinct hoppy bitterness and a golden hue, it was the backbone of communal pub life. In the 70s, Trophy ads were ubiquitous, often featuring themes of sport and camaraderie. However, as the industry consolidated, the Trophy was gradually shelved, eventually vanishing in the early 2000s. 4. Mackeson Stout. This was a truly unique brew, the Milk Stout. It contained lactose, milk sugar, which yeast cannot ferment, resulting in a sweet, creamy, and high-calorie drink. In the mid-20th century, it was actually recommended by doctors to nursing mothers and the elderly as a tonic. While the name still exists in small batches, the classic bottled Mackeson with the Milkman logo on the label is a ghost of a bygone era of medicinal drinking. 5. Courage Best. While the Courage name can still be spotted, the original Courage Best, brewed at the historic sites in Bristol or London, is a thing of the past. It was the soul of southern English pubs, a session beer with a light toffee flavor and a modest strength that allowed you to spend the whole evening at the bar without losing your footing. Its decline as an independent force was a tragedy for lovers of traditional bitter. 6. Boddingtons, the cream of Manchester. This story is a bit heartbreaking. Boddingtons still exists, but true Brits remember it differently. In the 80s, it was a straw-colored, intensely bitter and aromatic ale brewed at the Strangeways Brewery in Manchester. After global corporations took over, production was moved, the recipe was smoothed out, and the cream of Manchester became a shadow of its former self. The real bodies, died when the Manchester chimneys stopped smoking. 7. Skol Lager. Once the most popular lager in Britain, Skol was the 70s answer to internationalism. For many Brits, it was their first introduction to cold, fizzy beer after decades of lukewarm ale. It was light, sparkling, and, admittedly, mediocre, but it represented an era of change. Today, it has been almost entirely displaced by brands like Stella Artois and Carling, living on only in the memories of those who remember the first lager revolution. 8. Long Life by Ind Coop. This beer was revolutionary for a different reason. It was the first real canned ale designed specifically for home consumption. Before Long Life, canned beer often tasted like a rusty pipe. Ind Coop solved the lining issue, and Long Life became a staple of the 60s British fridge. It was the beer of garden parties and barbecues, a symbol of post-war domestic comfort. 9. Newcastle Exhibition. If you are from Tyneside, this name should command respect. Newcastle Exhibition, or simply X, was a stronger, darker, bitter than the average ale. First brewed for the North East Coast Exhibition of 1929, it remained a Geordie favourite for decades. Sadly, production of the original exhibition ceased in 2015, marking the end of a long, proud era in the Northeast. 10. Hofmeister. Who could forget George the Bear in his yellow jacket and a pork pie hat? Hofmeister was a British attempt to create a genuine German lager. In reality, it was brewed in the UK and tasted nothing like Munich. However, the aggressive marketing of the 80s made it a sensation. George became a pop culture icon, and the beer became the symbol of loud Friday nights. It has been revived recently as a high-end craft beer, but the original 80s version remains a kitschy relic of the past. 11. Mann's Brown Ale. In a world that wanted everything light and fizzy, Mann's stayed true to the tradition of dark, sweet ale. Often called the grandmother's beer, it was the essential ingredient for the brown and bitter, a mix of bottled brown ale and draft bitter. It was soft, with notes of burnt sugar and treacle. Today, the classic brown ale has largely surrendered to the craft porter. 12. Toby Ale Toby. Light and Toby Brown were the workhorses of the Charrington Empire. The logo, featuring a jovial, stout man with a tankard, was a familiar sight across London and the southeast. It was honest, working-class beer. Toby Ale vanished in the wave of mergers and acquisitions that wiped out many of London's historic brewing houses. 13. Gold Cross. This was an exclusive brew by Young's, crafted at the legendary Ram Brewery in Wandsworth. It was light, strong, and incredibly fragrant. When the Ram Brewery closed in 2006, at the time the oldest continuously operating brewery in Britain, many unique recipes, including Gold Cross, were lost to history. 14. Cancelter. Few remember this one, but Cancelter was a fascinating attempt at a diet beer for diabetics or the weight-conscious. It was bone-dry and low in sugar. It was a product of its time, an era when medicine and the brewing industry first started to cross paths in a serious way. 15. Strongbow Cider, the original. You might say, but Strongbow is everywhere. True, but the Strongbow of the 70s was a different beast entirely. It was dry, potent, and had a real apple character, rather than the fizzy syrup taste of today. Back then, cider was a serious drink for farmers and rural folk, a tradition that was eventually watered down for the mass market. These 15 brands are more than just a list of drinks. They are a chronicle of a changing Britain. From regional traditions and handcrafted barrels to mass production and global marketing, every vanished pint tells a story of a pub that closed, a brewer who retired, and a Friday night that will never happen again. If you enjoyed this nostalgic trip through Britain's lost liquid history, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.